Okay, so let's just start modestly. Okay, so we just need to warm the body up. So let's just start off with just a gentle bounce. So barely there. And now let's just, it's the same thing, but just like one at a time. So everything that can move, we want it to be able to move relative to its neighbors, so that when we're still, we're not stiff. So the body becomes rubbery. It feels like it can sort of change volume. It can squeeze smaller and expand, stretchy. And then just almost like a very gentle jogging on the spot. But just feel the weaving, the shifting side to side. Feel this being sort of relatively stable and the head being the thing that's least stable. Yeah, so I don't want to make my neck stiff by keeping my head still. I want my head to be really free. So for the mind to think to itself, the head needs to be relatively still, either still or locked into some regular motion. If the mind can predict the motion, then it will treat it as stillness. So there's like a random element to the movement. It's just constantly sort of being disrupted by its own internal rhythms. So you're gradually getting more relaxed, more jelly-like. It's like the jaw starts really loosening up. Feels like the skull starts moving around a bit. Sacrum is almost splitting into two. So you feel a little bit drunk, yeah? So you wouldn't be able to walk straight. You want to sort of feel the humor to it. You know, when you're a bit drunk, you just get the giggles. So it's a bit like that. It's not serious. Yeah, there's a sort of, there's a lightness to it. In the midst of the gravity, there is levity. Okay. And now let's just try just bringing the hands up and down. So very simple. And just coordinate it with the breathing. So as you bring them up, breathe in. And as they come down, let yourself breathe out. If my rhythm is not right for you, then use your own. And again, just feel the legs being sort of rubbery. So as you bring the arms up, you effectively become a little bit heavier. And so you'll be pushed down into the legs a little bit on the way up. And then as you bring the hands down, you tend to come up. Imagine you're in a swimming pool under the water. If you brought the hands up, it would push you down to the bottom of the pool, and then this would bring you up. So yeah, you want it just to get to the point where it feels like the breath is being drawn in and out by the movement of the arms, rather than by your own breathing. So as I lift the arms up, I'm expanding, and that's sucking the air in. And then now this is squeezing it out. And all the time you're moving. Yeah. So side to side. So these two arms that are sort of doing the same thing, they're wanting to sort of go out of phase a little bit. Yeah, so it's almost like you become drunk with movement. Just that Taoist thing, you know, that if you want to be able to sit still well, then everything has to be able to move. Otherwise, it's just a stiffness. And vice versa as well. If you want to be able to move well, then you have to really be able to be still. Otherwise, that movement is just like a nervousness. It's sort of compulsive rather than coming from somewhere good. So, ooh. And then just gradually let it sort of calm down. So it's like the rhythm gradually gets longer. So it takes longer for the arms to come up. And so we're just trying to stretch the breath a little bit. And so this is really stretching the in-breath. Oh, and then your body will tell you when you need to drop them. Okay, now let's just bring the arms up like our riding horse. It doesn't matter how the legs are. Let's have them a little bit wider. Okay, so we normally interpret this shape as like an embrace, which it is, but now let's just feel as though your arms are like antennae, that you send the arms out in order to pick up the vibrations in the air. So you're listening with your whole body. So you're listening to the room with your arms particularly, and you're listening to the ground with your legs particularly. And if someone was to come into the room and start speaking to you, then you'd actually feel it. You'd feel the vibrations in the air through your hands and your arms. So it's a real thing. Okay, now just keeping that visualization, just move the hands a little bit. So just in and out. Again, just keeping that sort of buoyant springiness in the legs. So as the arms go out, you're reaching out as far as you can imagine. And as the hands come in, you're reaching in. And you just slowly sort of equalize them. Okay, now let's just bring the arms up. So again, standing like a tree. So the arms like branches, the legs like roots. And again, you're just collecting messages, you're collecting information. So through the arms, channeling through the body and into the ground, and out of the ground, up through the arms. Yeah, so even though the body is still, it's actually full of movement. So there's all these little sort of twists and turns, particularly between the two sides. And that is an indication of just how quiet the mind is. When the mind is quiet, then the body will move in a natural way from inside. When the mind is noisy, the body will tend to be stiff and still in an artificial way. Okay, now just bringing it back to here. And now let's just get the neck. So we're just going to work on the neck a little bit because it does tend to be stiff. There's a saying in massage, they say there's no such thing as a relaxed neck. It's what happens if you try sort of moving someone's head when they're lying down. They're always trying to anticipate what you're doing. So if they know what you're going to do, then they will release to it, but it's always conditional. So what we'd like is to have a head that can just, it can just go any way. So as you turn the head, just feel the effect that it has on the heart. And if your head is stiff, if your neck is stiff, then so will the heart be. And so when I turn it as much as I can, something here opens up. And then just bring the fingers together, like you're lacing the fingers together, and just squeeze. And now try and pull the fingers apart, but without letting them. So now you've just got an outward pull, the same way we had an inward push when we were like this. So just very gently, just enough to get some sort of spreading happening, or feeling like it is in the chest. And now with the head again, but without, just look going up and down now. Start off gentle. Ooh. Again, just notice what it's doing to the chest, to the heart, and also notice how it's tending to make the sacrum and the coccyx move a bit. So you'd like those to be relatively stable. So just keep relaxing your coccyx down. Wow. And then back to the hands together. And again, just turning side to side. And then just bringing the hands to sitting on the top of the hip bones on the iliac crests. And now just rotating the head. So very gentle. And then just change direction. And just keeping your eye on the sacrum and the coccyx so they don't stray too much from their position. Whoa. And then just back. And now again, just reaching out. So let's just change the feet. Otherwise they'll get a bit stiff. So just reaching. But again, the arms like antennae. So you're picking up the information, the vibrations in the room. You're becoming like a resonator. Okay, now let's come back to something familiar. So just drawing the belly in and out. It's very similar to the lifting the arms up and down, because it's just a rhythmical action. Pulling in, everything disappears inside, and then everything appears outside. So we'd like the inside and the outside to be pretty much the same, so that we're completely transparent and porous. So no secrets, you know, so anything can come in and everything comes out. And just think of the body as like a receiver. So the whole body is listening. It's not just your ears, it's not just your hands, it's not just your feet, everything. Just feel as soon as you think of something, then the body just gets a bit stiff. Somewhere something has stopped moving. Ooh. Okay, and now up again. So now more like a sort of round ward off, but again, that same feeling of picking up the vibrations. Yes, and now just feel the vertical. Now we're slotted into a vertical. So don't let that become an excuse for the head to get stiff. Yeah. So the head should be wanting to sort of sway. If my neck gets stiff and my head doesn't really want to move, it's because I'm thinking about stillness. I have an image of this vertical in my head and I'm struggling to maintain it. So the vertical really comes from the heaviness here, just your inertia, and the feet on the ground. The head should be really fluid. Yeah, it's just swaying around. Now, this is why the image of the head being suspended only has limited use, because that will tend to make it still in the wrong way. So, whoa. So really it's like full and empty, so we just want to feel how the body just wants to shift into full and empty. So this leg is filling and this side is emptying. And if my body is soft and springy in the right way, then this will almost be like a perpetual motion machine. Because as I slip into this leg, the leg is already sending me back because of the springiness in it. Yeah. So it's like a pendulum. So full, empty, and then this throws me back and this slowly fills up and then this becomes empty. So just let the arms sort of slowly get into just tracing a circle. So as I tip this side and come here, this side wants to rise up because it's become light, because I've put all my heaviness in the other side. Yeah, so the full and empty will tend to turn me into a ball. So I just become this rotating ball that's just turning around itself. So just feel the belly in the center and just slowly just let it peel that foot off the ground. So the foot just comes up and then goes back down again. So just keep on doing that until you're just confident enough to pull the knee up. Just look at it. So when you know that you're going to pull the foot off the ground, there's a bit of panic sets in, and that will tend to make you come up because we tend to perceive that as a bit more stable, but we don't want that. We really want to get our stability by sinking into the leg. Ooh. And it really doesn't matter how good it looks. You can be really wobbly. That's fine. It's the honesty, really. It's just, just how well have you differentiated full and empty? So this is emptying, but only because I'm filling here. You can't produce emptiness. So emptiness is a lack. And so you have to put everything somewhere else, and then you'll get emptiness. Ooh. Yeah, so we want a mind that is very quick, a mind that can switch fullness from here to here quickly. So it's not just my body moving, my mind has to be with it. My mind has to feel, has to be aware. Otherwise, there's no real energy. It's just force. So the energy really is just the energy of awareness. Ooh. There's always one side that's more difficult than the other. And you just have to look at it, find out, why is one side, why am I reluctant to tip this side? What's stopping me? And just let the head go. If anything, the head should tip further than the rest of you. We tend to want to keep the head upright. So we tend not to want the eyes to tip, because we're not used to seeing the world like that. But we're just practicing to become familiar with things that are difficult. And then they'll stop being quite so difficult. Okay, now let's just bring it back to riding horse. And just feel that it's sort of still there. There's like a shadow you still doing that. So what was its feature? So its main feature was the relative stillness and heaviness here, and the relative movement of the head and the legs coming up and the full and empty bouncing off each other like this. Yeah. So as you're standing there relatively still, this is still going on. Okay, let's just go up and down a few times to just feel that. Ooh. So where are your movements coming from? Yeah. So we just want them to come from somewhere a little bit more natural and primitive than our thinking mind. So it's almost like I'm just a puppet, and the puppet man is lowering me down, and then he just pulls me back up. So it's like I'm obeying something. So it's not really coming from me. That's the feeling we want. And then in and out a few times. Ooh. And again, slowly this becomes like a natural thing. So to start with, it's you doing it. And then you just want to do it long enough so that it relaxes. And then it just feels like something else is doing it to you. And then it's difficult to stop. You have to be almost violent to stop the thing. A bit like your breathing. Yeah. If you wanted to stop your breathing, then you actually have to really sort of force it, because you're just compelled to breathe. Otherwise, you'd die. So, whoa. Okay. And now let's just jog on the spot a little bit more. So again, just really easy. So full and empty, but quicker. Yeah. So just feel how difficult it is just to have the mind with it. You can't think it, because thinking is always too slow. You have to just feel that rhythm and just let your mind hook into that rhythm. So we're using the body to get to the mind, to sort of train the mind to be soft and natural and not thinking. So a mind that's with energy. Is that way John would have put it? So forth. So you're just trying to relax the legs more and more. Then you'll get quite trembly, almost tearful. Okay. Okay, so now let's just try the step in the form at the beginning. So what happens at the beginning of the form? When you start, you're sort of 50-50. So what you do, you just slip into a leg and sink. So you just allow your weight to sort of pour. It's almost like pouring a jug of water. So it pours down and fills this leg, and then this one can come up. So I'm just bringing the heel up. So this leg is empty. But if I keep the toes on the ground, then I'm just more stable. So I just, like I'm tipping the jug of water, I just let it flow down. Now just feel that as you do that, what will tend to happen is this tends to do this a little bit. Yeah, so my tail tends to go back. So as you do it, just concentrate on your coccyx remaining heavy. So I tip this jug, and I just want to make sure that my tailbone hangs down. Okay, and now again. So I just, yeah, so when I sink and relax, especially when I go into one leg, this whole area should feel like it's being stretched. And then when I come up, it almost feels unpleasantly violent because this whole area is being compressed again. So as I pour this water, this is just what's so really full and empty. This now is completely full, and this side is empty. And now let's try just going the other side. So again, now just tipping the jug, and just let the knee just come up. So full and empty, and then somehow just come up without compressing too much, and then tip the water this side. One. This stretches out as I sink. It doesn't compress. It compresses as I come up, and then I. So it's basically just when we were just doing that little jog, we've just really slowed it down and just really feeling the stretching and the opening that's going on in the sacrum. Ooh. Yeah, so what is it that tips the jug? Just let it be the head. So just let the head move slightly that way, and that is enough just to start the flow down into the one leg. And then I just let the head. So again, don't stiffen the neck, just use the head. Okay, now let's step with it. Exactly the same thing, just sinking into this leg. I just tip this side, just like when we were leaning, but not leaning so much. And just lift this foot off the ground, and then just step out with it. Yeah. And so we want to be able to step without putting the weight in the foot. So here I'm tipping, I'm filling this leg. This foot comes up because it's empty. And then I can just place it. Yeah, so I could step forwards, I could step back, but I choose to step to the side. And then once the foot is on the ground, then I move across. But I move across by bending this leg. I bend that leg and just let it pull me across. And this leg is drawn up. Yeah. So again, now let's step this side. So full and empty to start with. So I've got to tip, fill this side. So this side is becoming heavy and down. This side is lightening. So I can step with that. Okay, now I'm going to start the process of this leg filling up. So I have to sort of just bend the leg a little. I sort of relax the leg. So the leg fills up by relaxing, not by tensing. So this is relaxing and it's drawing me across. This is now becoming light enough for me to pick it off the ground and step up with it. So let's just make an exercise of it. And then here's, what happened when you bend something, what happens in your mind? It's like, ooh, something like I sort of collapse. So something in this side collapses to draw me across. And it's enough to bring this side up. So I just let that whole leg buckle. Yeah, so this is something that's difficult to sort of get the mind around, the fact that you're actually collapsing into strength. So it's so the leg becomes strong by letting it buckle, by breaking it. And now this is empty, and I just want to just let it break all the joints. So 1, 2, 3. So, and this one as well, the sacroiliac. So they're all important. And I just let each one of them buckle, and that will draw me across so that I can bring this foot up. So, and now just feel, yeah. So the knee wants to go out. This wants to pull open, so does this, and the ankle wants to sort of break that way. So this is breaking from the front and the side really, so it's wanting to go out, the ankle the other way, and this in like that. Yeah, so it will draw you down and it will draw you across, which is exactly what we want. So I just tip into the leg and then just feel the 3 breaks. The main one, if you like, is like the knee. So the knee is breaking forwards, but then these 2, the ankle and the hip, break in this way. Yeah, so again, so just tipping down. Step, and then yes, it's almost like I yield here, but it's not quite like that, because as I break here, the knee is actually breaking forwards. And so there's a balance, but there is this sense of something opening up here and in the shoulder. So it's like something is, so I'm yielding into the leg. So here I just fill that side. And then I've got to somehow fill this side, so it's tricky. I fill this side, and now I've got to, yeah, so this is going this way, but the knee is going out. Yeah, so the knee and the hand are together, if you like. So here, but there's a softening here. So my knee and my hand are doing this, yeah, but this is breaking in at the same time. Whoa. So as the hand is going out, there's a softening here. It's a beautiful feeling. Yeah, so this is basically, stepping all the way through the form. Ooh. Ooh. So I fill and fill. Yeah. And we just want to try and just feel the quality of the spirit. Yeah. So this is what John would have called the female spirit. So the male spirit tends to explode something out. So the obvious one would be a fist. Yeah. The fist coming out in order to strike. And the female spirit explodes as well, but it explodes to make a whole. It makes a container. Yeah. So that's the feeling here. So in order to, because if you think about it, I'm not pumping out of the leg. I'm opening something up in order for me to sink into the leg. Yeah. So that's just the female spirit that's just opening up and containing what's coming in. Yeah. And so where does it happen? Yeah. So when I just tip here to go down, it happens in the ground underneath the foot. So there's like a hole opens up, like a well, and I can just pour my heaviness into it. And then I want a similar action to draw me across. So somewhere over here, there's another well that sort of just opens up. Something in me just sparks. Yeah. And like a vacuum opens up, and that sucks me across. And it's so strong that everything gets drawn in. So again, so something opens up, and that's what fills the side up. And then something opens, and I'm drawn across. Yeah. So what you're doing, you're creating holes outside of yourself, if you like, that you then venture into to fill. If you were just attacking, then you'd be attacking from your own center all the time. You'd be doing this, yeah. Whereas here, there's a hole under the ground, and I open it up with my spirit, and I can flow into it. Now there's a hole here, and I just flow across to fill it. Ooh. And this is exactly how you walk. If you're having to walk carefully, if you're having to sort of pick your way across a rough, difficult terrain, then you'd be very, very careful. You'd place your foot, and you just really make sure that that place where you've put your foot is okay before you venture into it. So you wouldn't be pushing out of this leg clumsily. You'd actually be grabbing with these toes and just gently drawing yourself across to fill this vacancy. So that's all this is really. There's a real care and attention to the female. Whoa. So something here opens. Yeah, so in order to become full, I have to sort of coax it out of myself by creating an emptiness. So it's sort of like a seductiveness. So I'm sort of seducing myself to move. Ooh. And so this is very much Dr. Chi's thing. Yeah, so you're always with the other person. You know, you are nothing. Yeah. So you're at your best when you're completely attending to something that's outside yourself, rather than thinking about yourself. So now I've just got to fill that well under the ground that I open up with my own care and attention. And then there's another well opens up here and I just flow across. Yeah. And you can feel it just makes the whole body very sort of listening, very receptive. And it makes you very sort of porous, like you become nothing. You're just listening. You're just like a big ear. So I tip, I step, and then whoa. I tip. And now here, this is the difficult bit. It's switching. Yeah. It's like you almost have to leap from here to here without passing across. So, you know, I've got my mind here, and then suddenly I just let something almost from out of here just draw me by opening up. So it's like there's a point where you're in two places at the same time. So here I'm here in my full aspect, but I'm here in my empty aspect. And I just want to really feel the power of emptiness to actually draw the fullness. So I just fill this side, and then here, and then something in me just bang. So there's a spark of openness, like a vacuum opens and I get sucked across. So I fill and away. Okay, so now let's just Yeah, so when we're standing and we're in this mode of receiving the vibrations of the room. So it starts off as a passive thing. So I'm just trying my best to just quieten down and just be aware of this process that I'm entering, this process of listening. But after a while of working with it, it becomes quite active. So there's a sense that you're not quite sure whether the things you're picking up are actually coming from the room or are being generated by your own workings. Yeah. So this is the sort of activity that we're looking for. It's a very sort of gentle, but like a fizz, like a fizz of soda with all the bubbles. There's this sort of bubbly fizziness. Okay, now let's just bring it back to attention posture and just so this is as still as we get, really. Yeah, so you approach that space of energy and spirit by just releasing and releasing the legs, just letting go with the legs. Okay, great. So let's leave it there.